Bad, not bad. Uh-oh. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. Okay, guys, welcome. Welcome to Howler Mouse channel. Getting a little. And welcome to a rainy Sunday. Rainy Sunday is those days as a kid. It's the particular day of the week where I really enjoyed reading my comic books because it would be raining and we couldn't go outside. And I would get a stack of comic books, crawl on the top bunk, and then turn around and kind of listen to the rain hitting the roof every now and then. What is up with this hat? And you would just read the comic books, just going through them over and over and looking at those pictures, being taken to a different world. The four color masterpieces of the day back then, right? It was really good stuff back then, right? And there's some really good stuff today. So as I'm coming to you on a Sunday morning here, it is indeed raining outside, and I hear we may get another wintry mix, right? So let me take this opportunity right away to say thanks for hanging out today. Thanks for checking it out if you're on a regular, but definitely be sure to make sure that you have subscribed. Make sure you hit the bell to know when we do these shows. I try to hit at least on a Sunday, and then give it a thumb up, share it, let people know that yeah, we have comic books around here. Somebody collects their comic books, reads their comic books, talks about their comic books, tells stories. It's fun. It's fun, right? And why do I bring this up? Well, because toward my analytics, I seem to go up and down between 40 and 73% of new viewers who are checking out this stuff are not subscribed. And, like come and hang out. This is a 16-year-old channel. I have been collecting comic books for as long as the mini con that I went to this weekend has been around. This is its 49th year. I went to Charlotte Minicon on February 27th, 2026. And I was able to get some pretty cool books. I've filled up a few runs, found a few things that it was a treasure hunt. That thrill of the hunt, the treasure hunt. You never want to get what you get, right? And so, yeah, we're going to show those books they have. It is so fresh for me being back that I haven't even taken the books out of my backpack. And we'll see what I have there, right? And what's another great reason to subscribe to this channel? Because this is the only channel, well, only comic book channel, I would imagine, where we actually drink coffee and talk about comics while we were drinking said coffee from the skulls of our enemies. Right? Got to be barbarian in this world to make it. Okay, you got to send a message, right? So anyway, coming at you live, I literally rolled out of bed about half an hour ago. Um, was up and down all night anyway, watching some Death in Paradise, if you like that show. A little murder mystery there in the Caribbean, if you will. And then decided just to get up, do this when I saw it was raining. And like I said, that's a perfect day to do this, right? So Charlotte Minicon to give you a preface of what's going on. So Charlotte Minicon started in 1977 in Charlotte, North Carolina. As I don't care to share, I am in Virginia, so it is quite the drive, right? And the Charlotte Minicons is run by Shelton Drum, who is in charge and the creator, owner, organizer, everything of the fantastic Heroes Con in Charlotte. One of the best uh, comic book conventions I feel you can go to because they have managed since 1982 managed to keep it comic book centric, if you will. It does have great cosplay and it has great artists that show up and a lot of a lot of things going on and great panels and great always has great guests of the comic book professionals, if you will, right? Just one of the great things. Well, this is the one that predated that. This is the one that started in 1977. It's the smaller show. So as you guys who have clocked in here and always hear me mention things, right? There is nothing like getting to go with your friend old Josh, Zinc Age Comics. We talked Anderson into going. Yes, Anderson, I feel like tempting you with the Big Daddy's, well, what I think it was Big, no, not Bad Daddy's. It was the Bad Daddy restaurant cheeseburgers. I feel like that tipped you over. And we ended up having a great time. The worst thing that happened, it flew by. We had such a great time, it flew by. We pre-ordered our tickets. They were giving out blind bag comics at the beginning of it. They could be worth $3 to 100. I did not get one of the ones worth 100, and the crowd was actually pretty manageable most of the day, but there was an hour there where I was just the runt of the litter. Everywhere I'd go, I could not fit in, man. I don't know if it's a young man's game now. It's not, or anything like that. But there were a ton of people. And we kind of discussed, I might touch on that a little bit later as we're going through the comics, but they're, going to these conventions for over 30 years. And I've known people over the years who have gone to them since the 70s, over the years. Some of them have passed on, and things like that. But there's something a bit new. There's something a bit new we've noticed with some of the crowds coming up and stuff, right? And I've kind of mentioned it, but it's getting a bit more widespread, right? And we'll bring that up. And if I forget, somebody put it in the comments. So, with that said, are you guys ready to see those comic books? We've had enough time for people to pop in here. There is a comment section. Throw in a comments, ask questions, tell me about the comics, anything I have here. If you're watching in the future, if you're not here on March 1st, 2026 in the AM Eastern Standard Time, definitely leave some comments. Let me know what you think about some of the books if you've read them or some of the stuff that I have. We're flying blind again, guys. One of the things that I'm really proud of with this channel over the years is I rarely script. I rarely skip script. I don't think I've scripted. I probably scripted like 3 videos my entire life, and it was still loose. If anything, it was bullet points. And every now and then I will have some notes to the side. There is none of that, right? We have woken up from a fantastic day trip. We have decided that where it's a rainy Sunday, it is comic book time. And I'm going to get one more drink of this blood-stained coffee of, of a dead enemy here, All right. One of the first things that I found is like you never know what you're going to find when you go to these really great cons, right? And I must add, it seems as a resident here, and if you take where I live, and I say this often, and you do like about a 3-hour circle on a map, you're going to hit like Roanoke, Radford, places up in West Virginia, all the way probably out to Knoxville, probably a little down here in Asheville, Johnson City. A lot of places where there's conventions and things. There's places in North Carolina, Boone, and a few places that have comic book conventions yesterday or coming up. And I got to tell you, North Carolina has it. I think North Carolina, even though there's great cons in all those places, if you're living in North Carolina, right there, a little bit central eastern, if you will, you got it. I mean, it's just a paradise, right? Because I've never really ran across things in this great a shape like this, right? If you have me on Instagram, or maybe I need to turn my camera around, I have all sorts of comic book memorabilia and ads and things like that finally on the wall, and I have a box over here, things like that, right? But I had to get this gentleman had tons of, I think there were 90s ads in comic book shops, and comic book shops technically are not allowed to sell this stuff. A lot of this stuff will actually say not for resale, right? But we have something that I think is from the 90s. Let me look here, 1993, from the actual Mirage Studios. We have an advertisement from 1993 for our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? I have talked about my turtles. My turtles are from 86 to about 93, right? My turtles is that original Mirage Studios run. Much as the comic book, the cartoon from the 80s was surreal for me to see when it came on CBS, and that's a lot of people's actual turtles. That's all cool. If I had to pick a cartoon, mine would be I think it was a Nickelodeon or Fox. I'm going blank here, but anyway, it was the 2002 2003 series where they, a little bit more serious, pulled from the comics a lot more. So yeah, we're going to find a frame, and we are getting this up, and this may actually go in my office at work. I don't know, man. But these are my turtles, where all the headbands are the same color. You know what I mean? The ones where their enemies will say, "You bleed." Yes, I bleed, and so do you, and they decapitate them. That's my turtles, you know. So yeah, this is just fantastic stuff, right? And it's great, man, because apparently this must have been some sort of Mirage Studio. Like I said, haven't looked at this, right? But I'm beginning to wonder if this was an insert to a few comic book, or if you went to a comic book shop, because what I'm looking at here, they have advertisements for and announcements for other books coming out and some news. This folds Space Usagi, things like that. Okay. So that's very cool. I didn't even see the back of it. But the gentleman that I bought that off of course, he had comics, but on a table to the side, he had all sorts of things from the 90s. There was Deathmate posters. There was a Valiant Comics After Shooter poster that I had never seen before, right? For, as advertisements and things, right? And what's ironic is that briefly in 92, because the shop owner, the guy that owned the shop, I worked in a comic book shop in 92 for a little bit as I was also traveling and things like that, right? But the comic book shop that I worked in, I ended up running the place as young as I was back then, because first of all, he had a job where he ran a cafeteria. He was the office manager, I guess, in a cafeteria of a community college. He did this on the side in a mall. And I came in and he tried to get me to work for comics. And I was also working Hardee's at the same time, right? I had two jobs, right? And I was the outdoor guy. I was doing Hardee's from 3 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. Then I would go around 4 or 5 and do the shop and everything, right? And then he just disappeared. And then his wife also finally showed up after a few weeks, where I really barely saw the guy, and she wanted to know where he was. And I was like, I don't know. And come to find out that he had gotten into some role playing game. I don't know what role playing game it was, but it had to do maybe BattleTech, maybe, I don't know. He really lost himself into. Apparently, he read from his wife and was running from his job, and then he had this store, and then he was saying he was at the store while he was off playing BattleTech. So I ended up running a store for a while, right? Yeah, this is from that era. So what I'm trying to say is I never saw those promotional pieces come in. We didn't get them. All right. If so, I would have took every one. It doesn't matter, right? Okay, so now let's go into it, right? Now, one of the things that I always think is sort of common knowledge, especially as long as YouTube has been around now and stuff and everybody looks at, is the book bag, right? You need to go prepared with a book bag. And you're not just having an empty book bag, right? Your empty book bag will have hand sanitizer. You do want that. Your book bag will have a light snack, a little, and I'm dead serious. People, you can get your sugar rush. That's cool, man, but you need to think ahead. Maybe like a granola bar or something. You know what I mean? Not that those are the healthiest things, but it's better than out and out like a candy bar where the sugar is going to crash. And you need some water, right? So I have two book bags. Some that I've had over the years. This one I've put so much stuff in it. One of the inside pockets is gone. It's just one big pocket in here, to get in there. So and there's been many years where I overdid it, or I found deals so great, like comic books for 17 cents a piece, that I would make the trip back into the car and then get back in. Always take bags in case you get rained on, so you can put them inside. Okay. And I usually have some old comic book bags with boards in case I go through those boxes. Uh, not as much as I should. I didn't do it this year, but I go to flea markets and things. I'll have old comic book bags and boards that I can bag some comics there if I find those key variant books or beautiful books in boxes where it's just there's no bags or boards on the books, right? Anyway, so let's see what we have here. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, I also had a comic book signed by Bo Hampton. Look at me now that my coffee's hitting in. Now that we're talking and I'm waking up, I'm remembering things, right? So anyway, they did have comic book creators there. Rick Leonardi, creator of, well, co-creator, creator, whatever. He Cloak and Dagger. Everybody knows him from Cloak and Dagger. He's done those things. Well, he did a fantastic, what was it, Daredevil 248 and 249 with Wolverine. He did some X-Men. He was all over the place. I've met him before. He's signed a few things for me. Steve Epting was there for you Winter Soldier nuts. Mark Bagley was there, had a huge line. Talked to a kid briefly who was so freaking happy that he had a sketch of Peter Parker / Spider-Man with his spider sense. It was beautiful. Bagley's tight on those sketches. And I talked to a Bo Hampton, And I took these books down there, and it was $10 a signature. I was expecting something like that. That's one of the last couple. It's one of the reasons I'm sort of turned off from going to the bigger cons here over the years. Uh, what they charge. So old Bo Hampton was there, and I wanted someone that I have never heard of going to comic book conventions around here. So I grabbed a few books. Right, I grabbed a few books off my shelves here and things. I bought this when I was actually working in the comic book shop. Some Tales of the Dark Knight, A Castle of the Bat. So when he said it was $10 a shot and he had his handler and we had this nice little talk, I said, pick the book because I want to know if when I show someone, when I talk about Hampton to somebody, I want to know what Bo Hampton feels is the most Bo Hampton book, if you will, right? And amazingly enough, he picked probably his most popular work for people to know, even if they don't know him, is the Barbarian cover Batman from his Destiny that he co-plotted and written, right? So as you can see, he signed it. I'll probably put this book in my face with him, our picture together on Instagram. And that was the only signature I got. For any of you old guys who've not been around this channel back in the day, I still consider a signed comic as vandalism to this day, even though I now have two, I can't remember if it's two, I have about two short boxes of comics. As these creators were getting older, I realized it was time for me to meet them, get my head out of the boxes, meet these creators. And I had a few signatures from Roy Thomas, Joe Sennett, and a few other people in the early 2000s. And then I think it was around 2012 and 13, thanks to YouTube, I started getting out and meeting these guys. Right. So yeah, that was it. Okay. And then this is the blind bag they gave you when you walked in. Okay. So here's the advertisement for the upcoming Heroes Con convention. All right. It's founded in 1982. It looks like a Mark Schultz. He actually gets the actual Sheldon that runs Heroes Con knows a lot of these comic book professionals personally. They have been friends since the 70s or 82 or whenever they've come to his con. And that's why it's so great. He actually knows these people. And then here is, oh man, that is beautiful. June 12th to the 14th. I haven't seen that one. That is fantastic. 2026. June. Yeah, that is fantastic. So anyway, I'll be going to that. I'm going to get a 3-day pass. And here is the blind bag book I have, right? The advertisement from last year's Scotty Young for that here's con from last year. And I got a Space Usagi number one. No, excuse me, Usagi Yojimbo Bunraku number one by Stan Sakai. And that cover, I do not, that's a Charles Vest cover there. So yeah, that was what was in my blind bag. So that will go with the Usagi collection that I have. Small as it is, but powerful it is also. Hey, good morning, Luke. How are you? Great to see you guys. Good morning. And now here we are, guys. I know you're ready. You're ready. So here is the bag, right? There was one purchase of 3 comics that came to $20. The rest were dollar comics. As we go through here, I'll remember better. Dollar comics, or the kind of deal where I bought 7 comics and said, "Will you take $5?" They said yes. Now, I will tell you, the first table I found that had dollar books, I was going to town on it. I was pulling out gems. I was pulling out great books, and where it was so early, I got in early because I pre-purchased my ticket. The crowd hadn't really hit. There was a few people there already, and I was pulling out some great stuff. And then the smell hit me. These comic books, the reason they were 50 cents, they were 50 cents. That's what it was. I thought they were dollar books. Turns out they were 50 cents. Well, it turns out they were 50 cents in this section because they were musty as hell. Like the more I smelled a little bit of mustiness going around, right? And then all of a sudden, when I took that stack and then I moved like this to another box and it was under my nose, it hit. And I just like had to abandon that. So I wasted probably about the first 15 minutes that I was there. And there were some gems, ladies and gentlemen, some gem books there. And I'm like, of course, right? Okay, so on top of the stack, right off the bat is I hope you are a 90s guy, right? I hear this is coming back, and I will not be watching it. Right? It's Fox and Scully. Okay, that's the X-Files, right? So I ignored these in the 90s, right? If I turn to, there's a box over here where I have my framed Rolling Stone issues. I have another box somewhere where I actually have some TV guides I bought back in the day, right? I had the action figures, I got rid of them. I still have some of the DVD sets. You can stream it, right? But I was an X Files guy, right? Problem is, I would record those. I actually worked in a group home during the weekends, and then they had a VCR there, and I would record X Files, Strange Luck, which was actually an offshoot of the show, and whatever, some Married with Children, a lot of Fox shows. I would end up recording while I was at work, and I would watch them over and over. So, of course, now when I go to stream, now that I stream the X Files and things, when I go to watch them, I remember every line as the show goes on. This is the show that it feels like in this brain I have memorized every show as it goes on. Could not win. I could probably place second to third place in a trivia game. It's because of time. But as the show starts, it all comes back to me and I'm starting to remember it. So thankfully, I ignored this, and I mean this thankfully. Topps Comics came out with, I think it was about a 41, 42 issue run of X Files comics, right? And it was original stuff. They did have a separate comic where they were adapting the show, right? Episodes and stuff with Chris Carter, right? So I've been working on cheaply completing this run, and Anderson is also, my friend Anderson's also getting a run of this by pure coincidence. He was the one that found these. He found them way before I did, so he was able to get what he needed. And this is a huge chunk of this, right? So this is number 33. These covers. There's just no doing them justice when you look at them, right? You really have to take your time, especially here. You can see Alex Saviuk was on here, Rick Parker, just some really great stuff in here. Now, what do I say? It's great that I ignored this. Well, it's because now I get new X Files stories from my perspective years later, right? I have a stream, I can stream the X Files easily, right? Here's number 31. And I'll just, since this one isn't in there, I mean, I'll kind of give you an idea what you're getting, right? The artwork, they get it looks like Fox and Scully. They do very well. The earlier issues, I think, had Charles Adler on it, I believe. And that's a bit more darker artwork there and stuff, right? Okay, number 30. But yeah, so yeah, like, and that's what I love about comics, right? Someone read this in the 90s when it came out, right? And they had an experience. Number 29. And now I get to read these in the 30 years later, and I get to have the same experience that they had back then if they remember those books, if you will, right? That's a great one. Yeah, number 34, 39, and number 19. Yeah. Yeah, Charles Adler. If you guys know Charles Adler's work, yeah, so yeah, Nightlights. So now, I think I'm down to needing an annual and 2 issues of having that entire run. So that was great to have. I've already read a few issues, and they're just straightforward X Files episodes. They read like episodes. They move pretty quick. It's entertaining. It's one of those things. If you like the X Files, you're going to like the comic. You know what I mean? It's not deep. I didn't pick up a subplot going through all the issues or anything like that. Not quite Monster of the Week, but it follows the same formula as the show. I think they're well done. Now, this is another series I'm trying to collect, and I have a fascination with the epic line of comics from Marvel, especially in the 80s, simply because I had no access to them, yet I would see all of the advertisements. And to be honest with you, I've always been a DC guy, right? But I have my Marvel comics around here that I absolutely love. Don't get me wrong, Um, but I would see these advertisements, and magazine form, I had Epic Illustrated in the house. I now have a full set and run and love that. But these were creator owned is what really got me. There was different things on there that you could tell these were like the mature books and adult books and stuff, right? So over the years, as I've gone through dollar boxes and found them, Swords of the Swashbuckler, the Black Dragon, Alien Legion has not grabbed me. There's things like that, right? But these were the ones that I really wanted. I have a shelf right here, right behind me, right below that Akira, where it's the Clive Barker Hellraiser stuff, right? Now, as much as I loved Hellraiser 2, Hellraiser 1 was an experience watching when I was a teen, but it was Hellraiser 2, the movies that's my Clive Barker Hellraiser movie. Yet there was another movie, the director's cut. And if you get on YouTube, there's an even bigger cut that the fans have made, right? The Boom cut or something or whatever they're calling it. They've been able to grab this movie and I don't know, they found deleted scenes and all sorts of things, and they've turned it into a whole 3-hour experience, and all that stuff. But Clive Barker directed and wrote this movie from his book. And it's the epic line of comics here, Clive Barker's Nightbreed. So here's I think there's 25, 24 or 25 of these, and I really can't find them. Uh, I know people who have full runs of this and they will not let it go. I've seen these in boxes that were seriously overpriced. So even though this is not like some key comic that people are out there trying to get, the cult following, I don't know if it's a Nightbreed thing, a Clive Barker thing, or both. But yeah, this was pretty cool. Brett Blevins art. Of course, it is horror if you know Nightbreed. But Nightbreed is actually my number one B movie. I have Vincent Price, The Last Man on Earth. I have some B movies I absolutely love. But Nightbreed, yeah, I kept that on VHS for over 30 years from the actual VHS. And then now, I have it somewhere saved on a streaming service or something. I need to get around to get a DVD of it or something, right? So anyway, we're just whittling down and these get to go on the shelf. I want to make sure I can read them. I believe the first 4 issues may just be an adaptation of the movie, but I don't know. But I absolutely loved Nightbreed. The first band I was in, the guy was like in his 30s and he was stuck in 38 special mode. And this is like 1989 or 90, probably 1990. I'd played around with other guys, but we never were like an actual band. It would just kind of jam because we were figuring out our instruments and stuff, right? But I got with a guy who was like, stuck in 1982. He tried to look like 38 Special with the poodle hair and the mustache and everything like that. And I can't remember what he named the band, but it was horrible. And I was like, we need to change that. And then I got him to play some Black Crows. You know what I mean? I had to bring him out of that era that he was stuck in, which blew my mind. And we played some Black Crows. And then it was time to. I was like, we need to rename the band. I wasn't trying to be an ass coming in and changing everything, but I was like, what am I doing here? If I'm going to do this, I got to be in something I'm not. I'm not going to be in an old man's band. That was the idea in my head at the time. And it turns out I was right. I hate to say it, I was right. But anyway, and so help me when it was time to give the band a new name. All I could think about was Nightbreed. And these guys had never heard of the movie Nightbreed. Like it had come out earlier that year or something like that. And I was like, no, we can't name it Nightbreed. And they were like, that is great. And they took off with it. We ended up playing 2 or 3 shows and I was just sort of like in the corner playing my bass where they would like announce the band or something, right? Oh man. Memories, guys, memories. So anyway, now these books were a lot of fun to find, right? Right here. I got 5 of these from a dealer. If you bought 5 books, they dropped down to 2 a piece. So this was $10, right? And I just had to get them, right? And I believe these are the same dealer. If not, you get the idea, right? But no. With the green sticker, these were a buck. These got dropped down to a buck, right? From the collector's zone, if you will. I got a feeling that was the original shop. I say the guy bought these somewhere, right? So these were a buck a piece. There was a guy there who had just dropped all his prices on his comics. His $10 comics dropped to, I don't know what he said, like 5, and then his $5 comics dropped to 3, and his $5 comics dropped to $1. $10 comics dropped to like $3, and then anything higher than that dropped to another number. I mean, he had it in his head. So anyway, these were a buck a piece is what I'm trying to get at, but they were originally like $10 comics or something. Anyway, we have an Archie's Madhouse from the Silver Age, number 48, 12 cents. I dig the 60s Archie stuff, early 70s stuff, right? And Archie's Madhouse is always fun, right? The bordered covers, I hate to say that this is a retro style of art that I wish would come back, just fantastic stuff. They believe this is number 49. I do want number 50 because I really dig when they have Archie and his pals in their superhero costume, their superhero personas, pure heart and all that stuff. And then I had to get this one. I think this one came out of a box where if you bought 5 of them, I can tell by the shiny, brand new thing. But anyway, I had to get this. Now, why did I get a DC Comics Presents #4, Superman and the Metal Man from the late 70s? Because Jose Garcia Lopez did the art in this. And a friend of mine about 10 years ago gifted me with an actual Garcia Lopez page of art from this very book. And the book that I have of this is beat up and torn up because it was in the original collection for years since the late 70s, right? So when I ran across a nice, shiny new, comic of it, I'm like, yes, I will get that. I want a page of this. And guys, I may have said this a few times over the years, but Chemo is actually one of my favorite villains. Just because of seeing him in Crisis on Infinite Earths when I was 12 years old, I was like, somebody could really do something with that, So yeah, I have Chemo coming out like a kaiju, a page of him coming out on a beach and spraying a bunch of people. Yeah, right. So this is a Jim Steranko cover coming up, people. Right. Um, And the Jim Steranko stuff is wild because anytime I see a Steranko signature, I look at the main figure really hard to see if Jim Steranko had snuck in there and drew himself again on the cover. He has done that quite a bit. He snuck and drew himself on the cover. Um, I don't think he did on this one, even though if you use your imagination, maybe this one guy in the corner. But I feel like he's taken a little bit of Action Comics #1 down here for some reason for this next book from the Bronze Age. Now, I want to emphasize the word bronze, okay, because this is truly a bronze book, right? So Marvel momentarily had had the I love that the pulp heroes seem to have been on the rise. It seems like in the 60s and 70s, as someone who was born in the 70s, and I'm able to look back on this and kind of remember things as I was growing older because pop culture did move a little slower back then, guys, right? But it seems like there was a big resurgence of the Marx Brothers in the pulp magazines. Jose Garcia Lopez was doing his Walden Newton books, right? And DC and Marvel received licensing on these two great pulp characters. And one of these characters really had a big influence, along with Philip Wiley's Gladiator, on Superman. And then the other one had a huge influence on Batman, almost to where if you play around on YouTube and check out a guy named Razor Fist and some other people, they're like, it's downright plagiarism, which was the Shadow. So around this time, we had Batman meeting the Shadow at DC, but over here at Marvel, they had Doc Savage, people, Bronze Age, man of bronze with this stuff, right? And that is a Jim Steranko cover. I didn't even take this out of the bag, but I found this for $2. Black border, black border. And back when I was doing, back when Jared and I were doing Cavern of Chaos, and it's early days and stuff like that. The live show that is on Friday nights on Jared Osborne's channel, sometimes Palo Costa and stuff. And I have a playlist when it was on this channel and stuff. There was talk about how some of these borders were actually like secretly the 10th anniversary of Marvel. So I would say I feel like this would be a 71, but I don't know. But anyway, as a black bordered cover and black comics are really hard to keep mint. As you can see, there are some spine ticks on and color breaks, if you will, some spine ticks, whatever, on the book. But for $2, the rest of it looks beautiful. So yeah, I enjoy Doc Savage, man. Again, Charlton 66 years ago sent me some of his more beat up paperbacks to read, and it actually fits. So I was able to read The Man of Bronze from some of those novels and stuff, right? What do we have here? Eastgate Comic Con. Okay, check out these guys. March 29th, they're having Eastgate Comic Con down in High Point. I met two guys that are at their table. I didn't buy anything off of them because I already didn't have anything I needed or already had. These two guys were great. So check them out at High Point, North Carolina. That's a big shout out to them. Rima, right? Joe Kubert cover. And I tell you what, man, I get it. Joe Kubert was on fire in the Bronze Age, apparently. I absolutely love what he was doing with the Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff. And he was doing tons of covers. Actually, first time I really noticed Joe Kubert was through covers in comics and stuff like that. And I am a sucker for many things, right? I'm a sucker for anything that have to do with Sasquatch as entertainment. I'm sadly, as much as I would love it, I do not believe that Bigfoot exists. Okay, but it would be great if he did. Have a Chewbacca running around the woods. And then maybe the Steve Austin Bigfoot android played by Andre the Giant running around. That'd be great. You know what I'm saying? But then you had the post-apocalyptic things where we're like where the world has just gone back to freaking Stone Age. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Your maybe a little magic thrown in there. Your Thundars, your Robert Wagner Kane, your things like that, right? And then you have, like I was saying a minute ago, where you just have your primitive cavemen and maybe your jungle people and stuff, right? So of course I had to get Rima in order to for $2. Number four, I have several issues of this. I do believe she was a part of the DC implosion. I'm not sure. This book didn't last long, but the art in this is absolutely beautiful. These splash pages are fantastic. I want to say they had a Filipino artist on it, which all those guys, Alex Nino and the bunch, and all those were just fantastic artists. So since we're all here together, and I'm wondering myself, how about I open this up and we take a look and see if this art is as beautiful as the other ones. Rima, the Jungle Girl, in general, those Jungle Girls, Sheena, and all that stuff like that, they have a cult following, and it is a niche. We'll put it that way for different reasons. But I like Rima because I remember watching reruns of Super Friends. Um, Super Friends, the cartoon, was on from 1973 to 1985, and they would do reruns. Like I was born the year they had Wendy, Marvin, and I can't remember the dog on there in that first season or two, very 70s. And they had cameos. They had Green Arrow and they had Rima on the show at some point. And they would still do those in reruns, even though they had moved forward with the Wonder Twins by the time I was old enough to remember watching them, right? They would still pop up. So what do we have? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 1974, guys. Who is this? I don't see any credits. But anyway, it's nice, clean art in this one. And I always tell people when it comes to getting vintage comics, maybe going back to the Bronze Age and stuff, buy what you want. I have Kong. I have many things, Commandy, Jack Kirby's Fourth World and stuff like that. Jimmy Olsen, Superman family, Batman family, Neil Adams Batman, Denny O'Neil Batman, where they kind of started there in the late 60s and moving forward with it. Yes, there are some great things, but when it comes to DC, their very best stuff, besides some of the stuff I kind of mentioned off the top of my head, was anything that had nothing to do with their superheroes. That's what's wild. Even though if you dig and look around and, you know, there's some great stuff in there. Lynn Wein taking over Justice League for a little bit and things like that. But it seems like anything, their sword and sorcery books or fantasy books, post-apocalyptic books. And this is a great example of it, right? I now need issue number 4. I thought I completed this run, but this is Tarzan. $2 for this, man. Weird Worlds number 3, guys, right? This is where they take other things. And why do I push these books and say they were great? Because they have future superstars doing artwork on these when they were sort of starting out. Mike Kaluta, right? This should be a Mike Kaluta cover, or he has art in it. Mike Kaluta, early Howard Chaykin, things like that. Just great stuff in there. Weird Worlds, like I said, I don't even think it made 10 issues. I can't remember. But when I found these books and was flipping through them, I was like, this is like, I've just unearthed some fantastic secret stuff, is what it felt like. And there are there's people that are a fan of the Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff, if you will. So, yes, I am taking this out of the bag to look at it. That is a fantastic, beautiful copy. And I've looked up when it comes to this series, right down to the number 1. I have found them cheap, and I have found them all in this kind of condition. This is just fantastic stuff, right? Yeah, right off the bat, we have John Carter of Mars before Marvel had him. It's beautiful stuff, guys. Yeah, the artwork is always just absolutely beautiful. This is nice, creamy colors, man. Oh wow. So yeah, fun stuff, guys. Yeah. And I'm a sucker for the more 50ish kind of looking. Oh wow, of the 50th kind of, the sci-fi from the 50s. It's just fun, even though I'm a Star Wars guy. You know, just because when I was born. Oh man, here we go. Al Weiss, Lynn Wein, Al Weiss, guys. Al Weiss art. This is the good stuff, guys. Temple of the Damned. That's when you know you found some good stuff, guys. So yeah, Weird World, Sword and Sorcery. I absolutely dig those books. Great stuff. And like I said, I was all excited. I was like, I found my number three. There was like 5 number threes of this book in the box. I'm like, I get my pick, and I found the beautiful one. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh yeah, and all this stuff. I get in my CLZ app and I put it in, and apparently I whined like a bitch because we were all in the truck driving back, and I was like, I said something. I made some noise. I don't know. I don't know why I just did that, right? And I remember Anderson, maybe Josh, looking at me like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, I was embarrassed. I was like, I need one more issue. Yeah, so I was like a little bitch there. You know what I'm saying? All right, we got everybody. Yeah, say hello, guys. Yeah, everybody's popping in here now, right? After we've gotten halfway through the stack, I'm going to do a quick run just to show the covers for everybody that's popped in here, right? Where we're at with things, right? I have that. I have the Spider-Man crossover with Doc Savage. I think. I'm not sure. I think I have a coverless copy. I know I have the coverless copy of the giant size, like Spider-Man Dracula, and I feel like I may have that with no cover, or you know what I mean, beat up no cover. So that's fantastic. You have that Afro Sci-Fi. Have the Spider-Man crossover with Doc Savage, and also the team up with Ben Grimm and Marvel Toon One. I know I have that somewhere. Yes, great stuff, man. Fun. I mean, it's just fun stuff to be able to find from yesteryear. You know what I mean? I don't know about when it hit then, but finding this stuff now with the history of it, right? So, everybody, give me a second here. I want to drink coffee from the skull of my enemies. Okay. All right. And the Prime One collectors there. Good morning, guys. Right. So, for everybody that's just popped in, let's do a quick review, right? Just kind of get it out of the way. I have a Charles Vess where I went to the comic book convention. If you pre-order your ticket, you got in a little bit early and you got a blind bag comic. I have a Charles Vess cover on a Usagi Yojimbo book. That was free. I have a 1993 Mirage Studios Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles promo piece I'll be framing. All right, guys. Bo Hampton signed book. A bunch of X-File books, which I talked about these already. Go back and check it out. I'll spare a lot of people. These covers cannot be done justice showing them like this. Okay, you really have to have them in hand. I really dig these abstract looking covers that set a mood, if you will. All right, a bunch of Nightbreed books that I kind of mentioned about the storytelling and my fascination with epic comics. Clive Barker, Hellraiser. All right. Yeah. Some Archie Madhouse, which is probably what I'm going to end up reading today. I want to end up spending the day reading X-Files, The Wasteland, you know, probably the Savage, Man of Mars, and Weird Worlds, right? Okay, guys. So this next one, if you guys have been watching, something has happened, right? Star Comics, uh, Funny Animal Comics, things like that, Disney, Pink Panther, and all that stuff. There's always been room for those. As a kid, while I was reading, the Knights of Wonder, the Yesterday Quest in the Avengers, because the stepdad bought those books, and I was reading Fantastic Four by Marv Wolfman and Keith Pollard, and then all of a sudden John Byrne came on there, and all sorts of things. I was reading some stuff, and then I was getting a little Bernie Wrightson and heavy metal as a wee lad and everything was like that. I still had my comic books. All right. I had my Super Goofy, right? My Super Goof, get that peanut turn into it, right? I had a little Underdog. I had the Beagle Boys. I had some of those kid comics and stuff, right? And here lately, when I'm running across these cheap, I'm getting some, Ren and Stimpy here, and it crushes me. Oh, my Rima, guys. Sorry. This was in the wrong stack. Another Rima that we were looking at. And as a kid, I always I had Captain Carrot in the Amazing Zoo Crew. Now, I've had this book in my collection 2 or 3 times. I don't know if it just rolls off like the tire on it. I don't know why. Maybe one day I'm gonna open one of these boxes and find it. It was in the wrong box or something, right? But now I have finally completed the run on my Captain Carrot and the Amazing Zoo Crew with Roy Thomas and Scott Shaw. And I have books that I had since I was a kid that had their yellow pages, and then I have them all the way up to this beautiful looking copy, right? So yeah, we've done that. But the one that has amazed me is now that I've never really ran across these in dollar bins for years and years and years. I bought one issue about a year ago, number 13, I believe, because it had a uh, anamorphic, animalized satire of Freddy Krueger on it. I have now found number one. I found another issue, and I have found number four with has a crossover with Danger Mouse. How can you not get that? And I guess if it's important to you, it is a newsstand, right? I'm digging these books. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm aging in reverse. Maybe it's just fun. I don't care. I don't know. When I found it, I was excited. I'm like, Danger Mouse, right? And if you go back and you look at some of the cons that I went to, the smaller cons, there actually was a Dublin, Virginia con, probably around 2014 or 15, probably a little bit earlier than that, where the person who was hosting it, and it was being filmed, I don't know, for the college or maybe the local news, she was dressed as Danger Mouse. And I have a box of old toys and stuff. I actually have a Danger Mouse figure in his flying car, if you will. No Pinfield though. I don't know if I have a Pinfield or not, but yeah, I have that car there in the Danger Mouse figure. Maybe 10 years ago they came out. But yeah, Nickelodeon, when we got the cable, which I now think was in '86 instead of '85, like I've always thought. Who knows? But Danger Mouse, those Nickelodeon cartoons that they showed that you couldn't anywhere else were like just fantastic. It was like going to another world back then. So I get those. And then I have to get this, right? So the way I understand it, right, from and I really need to look up, maybe I need to do a Google search on this book. Maybe I need to check and see if Tumar Publishing has ever done an article on this book, maybe an alter ego. I think it would be an alter ego. Maybe bronze, maybe the Bronze Age book, back issue. Back issue would be Pushing It, those two magazines there. One is more golden and silver age. One is bronze to the present and stuff. That was Mike Urey and Roy Thomas's handshake agreement about how they ran their magazines. But anyway, I need to see who's done an article on plop because I have to know, right? Because it's amazing. I don't know how I know what I'm about to say. Thus, it may not be accurate. And it could be on a Wikipedia page, right? But Joe Orlando, artist, I think a little bit of an editor and stuff at EC Comics. And he had come over to DC and they were going to start doing the horror line because times were changing. That evil comic code was loosening up, and we're going to get our horror books back. That's how they turned House of Mystery into a horror book. We got House of Secrets, The Witching Hour, and Joe Orlando was like, he had the Crypt Keeper and the Vault Keeper and all those guys, right? He's like, we're going to bring back horror hosts, right? And then you had things like Von Bode. The big one was Crumb, but you had Von Bode and a couple of other guys coming up, and you have these underground artists, right? Thank God for the streaming service of Tubi because I'm finding comic book documentaries left and right on it, right? So anyway, in the house, thanks to head shops and stuff, there were some underground comics and some very perverted books that reprinted stuff from France, that were animated boobies walking around and things like that. So I got exposed to some of that stuff as a kid, thanks to a head shop that was, near the Kentucky, Virginia, Tennessee border as a kid back in the 70s, right? But getting back to Joe Orlando, DC decided to kind of do an underground book. And from what I understand, Joe Orlando started calling up a bunch of his guys from Mad Magazine, the only thing to survive and come out of EC Comics, the magazine. It survived, and that's how we had Sergio Aragonis coming in and doing pages and things in Plop. So this is Plop number 2. Now I have a Plop number 1 that I am now afraid to get out and look at because I don't remember what shape it's in, right? But this Plop number 2 is beautiful. And the guy wanted $18 for it. Okay. And this is such a beautiful copy, and I never find really I don't need a high grade copy of Plop, but I need one that is stapled, not dog eared to death. You know what I mean? Not well loved. I need one that's been a little neglected from the love, so that I can be the one to do that to it and stuff. But this was a beautiful copy, and luckily I was able to talk to the guy. And somewhere in what I've shown you, there was two or three other, two or three, we'll say three comics counting this one. I'll be conservative about it, right? Where I was able to get a deal for $20. So, I don't know what I did. I don't know what I bought there, right? It's probably that Danger Mouse and stuff. I think it came to like about 27 to $30. Then I ended up getting this, and it all, it evened out. I got a few extra books because I just don't pay that much. You know what I mean? Like I can do it, as you can see, but I just cannot look at these guys and seriously think I'm going to get one book for that. Are you kidding me? So we have a beautiful, beautiful book of Plop. I have several issues. I know I have like the last issue. I could look on my CLZ app and see where we're at and stuff, right? But I enjoy that stuff. These Basil Wolverton covers, as you can see. Sergio Argonis drawn Cain and Abel. It's because of this book as a kid being in there. Cain and Abel have always been sort of some of my favorite comic book characters. Like when I saw them in Who's Who, when I saw Abel, and then an issue or two issues later, I saw Cain in DC's Who Who. I was like, yeah, they got a spot. I never thought they would do it, right? And then, of course, when they ended up in Sandman #2 by Neil Gaiman and stuff like that, I was just like, this is beautiful. And then he hits me with a 1-2 punch with the three witches from the witching hour, the mother, the maiden, the crone, and all this stuff. I was like, this is fantastic. So that was another reason they hooked over. It's been great to see them. All right. Going back to I bet these are the two books that I got for $20 with that one, the other two books. Anyway, I now have all of the Edgar Rice Burroughs. Uh, I don't even know if Joe Kubert was still editing these books by the time, but you had your Tarzan book, and then you had a Korak, Son of Tarzan, and now I have all the issues of DC. Now, if you were really worried about it, you can see that's 57, number 57 for a quarter. Just take my word on it. I'm not going to stay here and wait for it to focus. Beautiful Joe Kubert cover, taking on a woolly mammoth, or maybe just no, excuse me. I saw a little fur on the chin, much like I used to just keep. Anyway, it looks like it may just be an elephant. But Korak, Son of Tarzan, this is where his son has gone out to explore the world, and he's the one that runs into the weird stuff and magic and things. Where Tarzan feels a little bit more grounded with its secret cities and gunfire and fighting animals. He goes out and he ends up finding ghosts and UFOs. I don't know, all this stuff, right? But anyways, you can see it's number 57, right? DC Comics did not put out that many issues. Back then, for whatever reason, they felt like Gold Key had already put out so many issues. Tarzan, they'd already put out so many issues. So when DC got the license and Gold Key had lost them, DC kept the original numbering. Apparently, we didn't actually get a #1 Tarzan until it went to a new #1 until it went to Marvel. They started all over, right? So yeah, this has continued the Gold Key numbering. All right, these books, like I said, they're very underrated. I know there's popular, right? So I had a full set of this next book I'm going to show you. And this book is considered one of the greatest Batman stories ever. Fair enough. You know what I mean? I kind of like it because it's supposed to be taking place a little bit after Batman Year One. It was 13 issues, and and as time has gone by, this thing has just gotten better as I've read it. Right? I was one of those guys reading this, and I'm like, yeah, this is good stuff. Then I skipped around. I didn't really bust my butt to get it. I ended up having a complete set. I ended up having Tim Sale. Thank goodness for social media. Sometimes I have to say, I never, as much as I try to stay off it as much as I can. I do have pictures of meeting Tim Sale, even though they're blurry, and he signed my #1. And a couple years later, I ended up putting this on eBay, and got to say, I was surprised. It woke me up to how popular this series is. I have to say, one of the reasons I have not kicked myself is that it's one of the few times that I was surprised with how high the bidding went. It was a good day. Even though I hate not having a Tim Sale signed Batman, I think I do have a one shot by Tim Sale that I still have. I had him sign a few things that day, and he signed some Superman books that he worked on. So I have my Tim Sale signatures. But anyway, I have half of this series. I just kind of look around for it. I have the noir hardback of it. I actually prefer it in black and white for some reason, and I can always get. That's what I did not bring down. I had a compact comic I bought of the new Frontier I was going to show, and I did not bring it down. Anyway, needless to say, I have them left and right. I can get it in this size for $10 if I really want a color version of it. Those compact comics are fantastic, by the way. That's the best thing DC's come out with in a while, right? But anyway, so I end up having every other issue of this as I've come through dollar boxes and found them every now and then, right? And now I'm at a point where now that I'm thinning out my comic books and I'm going to be selling things and I know what I really want to keep and everything like that. This is one of the ones I want to keep. And even though the story is really good, even though the story when it revealed the killer, it really fooled you. That was what was really great about it. This is one of the few things Lowe really landed with. And it made sense. Like if you really were trying to play detective, you could have figured it out. That's what's wild, right? But anyway, here is number 2. I now have 1, 2, 3, and then all the prime numbers. Solomon Kane. So if and there is a 2-part cartoon animated, however you want to say it, adaptation of that story. It's you can get on HBO Max, I'm sure. Uh, God, so today's the day that Tubi is supposed to. Warner Brothers is supposed to drop Warner Cartoon Network and stuff. They're going to drop a ton of cartoons and cartoon series on Tubi today. All right. And I'm wondering if that's going to be on there and stuff. Right. But anyway, Long Halloween, it is indeed one of those classic Batman stories. I have a video or maybe a live stream or a video where I took my collection and I have my own personal Batman timeline of what stories work and don't. You know what I mean? In my personal, and yes, Long Halloween is in it. It is Howler Mouse Batman timeline worthy. What is up with my hat, guys? Sorry, man. All right, what do we have here? Graphic Man Comics. Good morning, Graphic Man. My God, I haven't heard from you in forever. DC followed the numbering from Gold Key, just as Gold Key followed the numbering before it left over from Dell. And I see the collector being thought of. Oh, nice. Awesome, man. Yeah, from Dell to Gold Key to Gold. Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't mention that, man. There's a thing with Dell and Gold Key, and it's exactly because of where I grew up that they just merge in my head. And yes, I am wrong for it. So thank you for pointing that out, Graphic Man. Great to see you, Micah. Really great to see you in here, guys. All right, guys. So we have spent an hour together. I appreciate everybody that has popped up. I am very appreciative of all the people that have been coming here for years. There's a handful of you guys that have been here from feels like year 1, which is fantastic. That's actually really cool. But make sure that you are subscribed, thumb it up, share it, let people know that we're here. Let people know that we talk about our comics, we read our comics, we touch them with our fingers. We go to comic book conventions, we talk to real people about these things, right? And things like that, man. It is still a hobby. And what I was going to mention real quick, because I was just having a good time, is I'll probably talk about later about how the crowds have changed in there. So if you've hung in there because of that comment I made at the first, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. There are members of a crowd that go to these comic book conventions that I've been seeing grow over the years. And I think Anderson bottom lined it really well, but I've never seen such aggression, right? I cannot think of one time from the late 80s up until probably like pre-pandemic where I actually met someone who was just like a little bit of an ass going through there and being a little bit rude and not wanting to say anything. And at this convention, people had actually brought their teenage kids and they would have them lean on comic book boxes while they're on their phone, blocking people from looking up there, right? And I'm like, that's new. And I'm like, I've mentioned that I feel like there's a vein of greed going through some of this stuff now, right? There's always been people looking for the keys and get a good deals and the haggling. That's all part of it, but it was fun. a little bit serious sometimes and fun, right? Now, like I said, people are bringing baby carriages with kids who were too old to be in the baby carriage to block people and doing things. We saw it, and Anderson said it. He was like, everybody's been turned into a speculator when it comes to comics. So everybody's trying to get in there and get those keys and things like that, or whatever is trendy and stuff, which is one of the reasons I feel like with this Bronze Age stuff, I was able to get great deals because some of the stuff is valuable, but not like comic key collector valuable, right? So that is just to fulfill my condensed speech, just because I mentioned it at the beginning of the video that I would comment on it, right? But I was having too good of a time with the comics. You see how much I worry about it? Be excellent to each other. Subscribe, hit the bell. As always, if I try to come in on Sundays, and then sometimes it'll just be spontaneous because I get inspired, or I just decide I feel like I want to do a show or something, or maybe shoot a random video, right? So, guys, be excellent to each other. Read your comics. Thanks for popping in. Later.